My first job will always be remembered by me. I will always remember my first job. The first sentence is in the passive voice, and the last one is in the active voice. Grammatically, these sentences are correct, but which sentence seems more natural to write? And when should we use the passive? Hi, I'm Dora, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Bite Size English, your daily bite of English.
What's up, Doc?
Many of you might be thinking you need to know the passive because you're doing a lot of business writing or academic writing. Right. Well, watch our episode for the passive part 1 on how to form it and for some examples of when we use it. In this episode, we will continue with more specific examples of when to use that passive voice. You're responsible for writing about a process related to scientific research, industrial or company operations. Then yes, write in the passive where the people who perform the actions are not the focus. Have a look at this paragraph describing a mining process. Can you find examples of the passive? To separate ore from waste rock, drill samples are sent to a laboratory for analysis. The results are used to mark out zones of ore and waste rock, which are mined separately. You should have found the examples of the verb to be plus a past participle. The 3 examples were are sent, are used, and are mined. Do we know who sent the samples or who reported the samples? No, we don't. But it doesn't matter who did it. We logically assume all those experts behind the process are doing these actions. We don't need to talk about them because we want to focus on the process itself. Writing bad news is never easy. You or your company is rejecting an application. How would you tell the person? We've denied your application. Ouch! Expect to get the hate mail. Here is where the passive voice is useful. When you want to keep it impersonal and no one wants to be personally responsible, you could write, unfortunately, your application has been denied. Need to let someone go? The most aggressive thing you could say or write in the passive is, yeah! I don't think I would ever say to a person, I fire you. That just sounds weird. And listen to what this professor says.
Here we have one of our candidates for president in the United States, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who, in explaining how it was that his administration caused a 3-hour traffic jam by deliberately closing the lanes to a tunnel during rush hour in order to punish the mayor of a town that would not endorse his re-election, he said, mistakes were made. The infamous politician's evasive passive.
Think of all the people in power who use the passive to avoid being blamed for mistakes they made. Instead of, I made mistakes, you might hear, mistakes were made. Yeah, right. I think I know who made them. Sometimes the passive isn't necessary. Sometimes it's okay to put in those details that others want to avoid talking about. Here's an example. The computer was inspected and a faulty chip was found. The decision was made to replace the faulty chip and a new manufacturer was engaged. After the new chip was tested, the system failures stopped. Now, think about that writing this in the active voice. The chief engineer inspected the computer and found a faulty chip. The manager in charge of parts decided to replace the faulty chip and engaged a new manufacturer. After the engineering team tested the new chip, the system failure stopped. Now it's clear. Everyone knows who successfully solved the problem and with less words. Yay, team. Let's go back to the sentences I used at the start. My first job will always be remembered by me. I will always remember my first job. Which one was the most natural? The last sentence. The first passive sentence sounds formal, but ridiculously formal. Review now all the reasons to use the passive. From our first episode on passive, we use it when highlighting the topic, writing a rule, being impersonal, making a general statement, and now when writing a process, avoiding responsibility. But use the passive voice wisely. So here's the tip. Many university students and business people use the passive. True. But don't overuse it. You might sound either overly formal, where formality isn't needed. You could sound like you're avoiding the details, when maybe the details are what you do need. And most importantly, you will sound too wordy, when really everyone wants you to be brief. That's all for today. Have any comments? Write them below the video. Like our episode? Then subscribe to our channel, and finally, sharing is caring. Please share it with others. See you next time on Bite Size English.